Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I have the pleasure of having me today with me here, Vicky Sigworth. Vicky is a person with lived experience as me. She has a son who has had this diagnosis of schizophrenia, just I have one. And so she is what we call a person with lived experience. But not only that, Vicky is someone who knows the Bible in depth. She's a very spiritual person, very spiritually gifted. She does a lot of good in her life. Above all, a good person. I have the pleasure to have here Vicky Sigworth.
Thank you so much, Joelle. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. So, Vicky, we met in the GFDA, which is the Global Families for Dialogical Approach, because that we met. Could you start talking to us a little bit about open dialogue?
Yes, Open Dialogue is an amazing program that was started, about, 40, 50 years ago in Lapland, where the reindeer grow,
Mm-hmm.
um, by a very forward-thinking psychiatrist. So about the same time that everyone in the world started realizing that people should not stay in the hospital for the rest of their lives, but they got dumped into the streets.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they were doing the same thing in Finland, but called in a place called Tornio.
Mm-hmm.
But she said, "Wait, we're going to do things differently.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to bring the hospital to the people."
Mm-hmm.
So Tornio was a very big farming community, primarily,
Mm-hmm.
fairly small in terms of population. And so when somebody had a psychotic break,
Mm-hmm.
instead of sending them to the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
they would send a psychiatrist and a therapist, a social worker, a clinician, etc., to the family, preferably to be able to stay there for 2 or 3 weeks to connect with the family.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the interesting thing is there's been a fair amount of research that has been ignored,
Mm-hmm.
saying that interactions between family members and other friends and
Mm-hmm.
other people is a primary source for the trauma
Mm-hmm.
or the misunderstandings that create mental illness. So she was actually doing a very, very wise thing. And they've done research on this project, and they've had like an 80% full recovery rate for first episode
Mm-hmm.
psychosis. Psychosis is when you start seeing visions, hearing things that other people don't hear, or smelling or feeling things that other people don't smell or feel,
Mm-hmm.
etc., having delusions. So this is the highest rate anywhere in the world. And they've done a lot of testing on it. And within 5 years of using this open dialogue method, most people, 80% of the people are back at school or back at work. And the
Fantastic.
family and their friends have learned how to support them.
Fantastic. I also agree with all that you have said. And I think in the open dialogue, one of the things that happens is that we give voice to the person. The person is no longer silenced. So the person with schizophrenia has much to contribute, doesn't he? There's much to that these people can bring to us. And it's not only a downside of schizophrenia, but also a good side that these people they have many contributions and they are worth being listened. Don't you think so?
Absolutely. In fact, scripture is very clear on that.
Uh-huh. Vicky, the sound. Sorry, it has frozen here. Are you back? Because your image froze a little bit. Could you
Your
say?
image froze too. I'll
Yeah,
say it
yeah.
again.
Okay.
Okay, when Jesus started his public ministry, he quoted
Uh-huh.
from the Hebrew Scriptures, Isaiah 61, 1 to 2. I have come to heal the brokenhearted,
Mm,
to proclaim freedom for those in prison, and sight for the blind.
mm,
Now, people who have mental health issues are almost universally brokenhearted,
yeah.
and they feel imprisoned in their own heads, and they feel blind to everything else, and they feel that everybody else is blind to them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what Jesus didn't quote is a few verses later. It says in Isaiah, that those broken-hearted, once they've been healed, they will rebuild the cities that have been destroyed.
Mm.
Our cities in our world have been destroyed through lack of intimacy, through
Mm.
lack of caring about each other, through pursuing our own, agendas, making money, getting power, blah, 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 or having
Mm-hmm.
fun. And so the brokenhearted who have been healed, those people with schizophrenia, bipolar, anxiety, depression, when they've been healed, they can help our societies become human again.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I see that in the person you know so well, your son. He's such a good person. He brings beautiful contributions to the world. I would say he is a spiritual person. He's committed to bring to this planet the word of God.
Yes,
So that's something to talk a little about spirituality and schizophrenia. Maybe people with schizophrenia, they sometimes they reach a certain spirituality, don't they, in their life path?
yes. In fact, there is a group of people who've had bipolar disorder and serious mental health issues out in San Diego, California. They've
Mm-hmm.
started this thing called Aslan's Way, from Aslan, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And they are using Joseph Campbell's hero's journey to
Yeah.
describe what it is like to fall into the depths of psychosis or bipolar mania or depression.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the hero's journey, it's also Joseph started his hero's journey description to describe epic tales such
Mm-hmm.
as Lord of the Rings, the Narnia tales,
I
the
think in a
X-Men.
gen I think in a general way he studied the primitive people's beliefs, primitive people's myths. I think it's
Yes,
myths.
and
Yeah.
that too, that basically the hero falls into an unseen world.
Mm-hmm.
And in that unseen world, he's all rattled and he
Mm-hmm.
has lots of temptations and
Mm-hmm.
confusions. And sort of at the depths of the unseen world is this a moment of clarity, a moment of looking at his deepest, most horrible self,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that he's in the dark night of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and in the dark night of the soul, he has to face his own shadow self.
Mm.
You can
So
see this. Yeah.
so as people can understand, the shadow is a dark side of our personality, a dark side of us, which is there
Mhm.
hidden behind.
Yes.
Okay.
Our selfishness. We all
Mm-hmm.
think we're good people.
Mm-hmm.
We all inherently want to see ourselves as good people.
Mm-hmm.
The worst people in the world, let's say Hitler or others,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
they 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 thought they had a mission to
Mm-hmm.
do something good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They were deluded, but
Of
and we
course.
all have this shadow self
Mm-hmm.
where we don't even realize it's a shadow self
Mm-hmm.
until we are confronted with our inability to be as caring and compassionate as we would like to be.
Mm-hmm.
And many family members with mentally ill loved ones find that they are having to face their own shadow selves.
Yeah.
Oh, my son was this brilliant scientist or brilliant artist or brilliant soccer player. And then he got into mental illness and what's
Mm-hmm.
wrong with him? And blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. And,
Yeah.
and then they suddenly become from very nice, controlling, nice parents, they become controlling, they
Mm-hmm.
become fearful, they become judgmental, but that's never who they thought they were.
Mm-hmm. I see.
And so their loved one they thought that was this wonderful person, very creative, very intelligent, very empathetic, all of a sudden turns inward. And now the parents and the family members have to first face their own shadow self, which is not created by their loved one's difficulties. It is revealed.
Mm. It's a very interesting thing that we're talking here. So the person with schizophrenia is a more sensitive person maybe, a person that can perceive mistakes the other people are committing that these people themselves do not notice. So
Exactly.
in this manner, a person with schizophrenia would contribute to the spirituality of those around him.
Yes, if the people around them can understand the value of
Mm-hmm.
their loved one. 1 Corinthians 12:21 says it
Mm-hmm.
this way: the weakest members of the church, of the body of Christ,
Mm-hmm.
are the most essential.
Mm-hmm.
They are more essential than the pastor, than the evangelist, than the, you know, very gifted person. Why do you think that is?
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. I would say that that is because they can enhance the spirituality of themselves. They may reach a spirituality, an inner spirituality of theirs, and also contribute to the spirituality of their family and friends and everybody around, which is a
Yeah,
much more beautiful approach, Vicky, much more beautiful, much more understanding approach than committing these people to hospitals and treating them as guilty of something and giving them lots of medicine that have an arguable effect. So it's much more human, isn't it? This other
yes.
approach.
So the thing, let's go back to open dialogue.
Uh-huh.
So often the people who are in a crisis, they haven't slept for days.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and maybe they've been fasting, maybe they haven't been eating, um, and their bodies are so wound up they can't calm down.
Yeah.
And so even within the open dialogue approach, they often start by giving them something to sleep,
Mm-hmm.
like a sleep medication.
Mm-hmm.
Because, excuse me,
No problem.
hi, I'm on a call right now. I can't talk.
No problem.
Let me turn off my, okay.
It
Um,
happens.
so for instance, they give them a sleep medication.
Uh-huh.
Because anybody who is not allowed to sleep
Mm-hmm.
and not allowed to eat will almost 100% of the time become psychotic.
Just to give here an example, me. Me. This happened to me. I spent many days without sleeping. I was eating very poorly, and this led to the outbreak ahead. This is my own experience.
Yes, that is it. And prisoners of war, when they're deprived of sleep and
Mm-hmm.
poor food and torture, they can become psychotic,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So that's why they often give them medication to allow them to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
They need sometimes several days to simply be able to sleep and recover.
Mm-hmm.
And during the time that those people are sleeping, then the team, say Antonio, could be talking to the family members. What happened? What started this? Where are the roots? Oh, well, he was always a very precocious child, or she
Mm-hmm.
was always very creative, you know? So what happened? Well, when they went into school, the school could not handle them.
Mm-hmm.
So often these people are so creative that they're oppressed by the school system.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
school system isn't trying to oppress them, but the school system is trying to teach everybody sort of the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
an educator. I know that that's wrong,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah.
but it's most common.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, however, but Vicky, it's pretty obvious, I would say, that the open dialogue, this way of valuing the voice of these people, their experience and their wisdom, as well. Perhaps I would use the word wisdom sometimes to these people. However, it's not the mainstream treatment
No.
in the United States or in Brazil or elsewhere. What prevails is the old method of heavy medication and internations and so forth. Do you think we can change the system? Do you think
Yes.
we can change the system? Yeah.
The evidence is in favor of change.
Mm-hmm.
However, people have their jobs at stake.
Mm-hmm.
It may take another 50 years,
Mm-hmm.
but I believe the evidence will change. And it is changing in parts of the world. There's I mean, the open dialogue has spread throughout
Mm-hmm.
in many places in Europe, is in a few places in the States, at
Mm-hmm.
Emory University up in New Hampshire, um, and coming a little bit here to New Haven. The
Mm-hmm.
reason my son is out of the hospital after 7.5 years of inpatient is because his inpatient doctor was willing to utilize open dialogue principles for his last year of incarceration slash hospitalization.
Well, thank God you had this doctor.
And now he is in charge of teaching many residents at Yale New Haven Hospital.
Yeah, could we say, Vicky, that we as people with lived experience regarding schizophrenia, that we could be the leaders of change in society, that we can help build a better world?
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
that is I would say supported by the Bible, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Like these two verses I shared with you.
Mm.
And so in the church, we need to learn how
Mm-hmm.
to embrace these people
Mm-hmm.
because the church needs the prophetic voices of people with serious mental illness because there are three things
Mm-hmm.
that the Human Genome Project found.
Mm-hmm.
The reason they were started was because there were some psychiatrists and researchers who had schizophrenia in their families,
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted to find the gene for schizophrenia.
Mm. But
They
that was
tested
not.
it. Do you know what they found instead?
Very good
Cutting
question.
across, cutting across all mental health conditions,
Mm-hmm.
the three primary genes
Mm.
were for creativity, emotional sensitivity,
Mm.
and intelligence.
Oh, how interesting.
Those are all considered strengths.
Yeah, but we were talking about families who regarded their children as precocious, intelligent, very well succeeded people, and then suddenly comes an outbreak, and the family is puzzled. How could that person that seemed to be so brilliant now have an outbreak? But this would be considering the outbreak just a negative thing, while we know that in other societies, in other times, the people who heard voices, for example, was not regarded as a mad person, but as a gifted person. So when a person develops a psychosis, it's not necessarily all bad because it might refer to something good about the person also.
Yes, we have to develop a paradigm shift within our
Mm-hmm.
culture, you know, and that happens one person at a time.
Uh-huh.
But there are an increasing number of psychiatrists and researchers who are already doing this paradigm shift.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, about this subject, I understand there's a new facility in San Diego, California, where they are applying the principle of the hero's journey, as you said, and also spiritual support to the people. So that could be perhaps a model for the future. Could you tell me a little bit about this San Diego hospital, this place?
Um, yes. So these two guys,
Mm-hmm.
one is in a wheelchair because he jumped off a third-story building
Oh, God.
during a bipolar manic moment.
Oh, God.
The other is from South Africa originally. His father died by suicide with
Oh, God.
undiagnosed bipolar. And he was in the middle of going to seminary at Fuller Seminary, an evangelical seminary in
Mm-hmm.
California,
Mm-hmm.
when he ended up with three psychotic breaks.
Mm. Oh, God.
Okay. The two of them connected and they've been trained as peer mentors and they they've developed this, they were the ones that developed this Aslan program.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them Josh Roberts has also developed a neurodiversity gift program.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting because they have been working with a lot of people, and the people have been getting better because what they've been doing is showing how embracing the person as a person with gifts
Mm-hmm.
rather than a person with deficits
Yeah.
helps to heal the trauma that they've experienced.
Yeah.
There's also a neuroscientist from Caltech,
Mm-hmm.
California Institute of Technology, very
Mm-hmm.
famous school like MIT, but it's in California. She wrote a book called Insight into a Bright Mind.
Mm. Beautiful title.
Yes, and her son is a person who was not doing well in school, but because she was a neuroscientist and she had her own issues, she could see that. And there now are some schools on the west coast of the US that teach people how to teach these people so that
Mm-hmm.
they are not traumatized
Mm-hmm.
in their schooling. Okay? So it's very important for somebody who has a very creative mind,
Mm-hmm.
but who's also emotionally sensitive
Mm-hmm.
to be in an environment where they are not going to be traumatized, because if they're
Yeah.
so traumatized, then their intelligence and their creativity and their sensitivity pushes them into mental illness.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand what you're talking about, and I think, from my experience, I think when we come to a psychiatric facility, this should be, above all, a place where we feel safe. I think a place we feel that nobody's gonna bully us, nobody's gonna punish us. A place of safety, a place that we can be confident in the people around us. But it's not always the case, as we know very well.
Yes, and it's very hard to get those places.
Hmm.
And
But now
so,
we have, yeah, but briefly, now we have this hospital, this psychiatric hospital in San Diego, California, which is something of a better future for all of us.
well, it's not a psychiatric hospital yet.
Oh, it's not? Okay.
So right now it's just beginning to start an outpatient program.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, and but another program that was started 30 years ago is called the Soteria House. Have you heard about the Soteria House?
I have heard about, but I'd like you to speak about it, please.
So this was started 30 or 40 years ago by the previous director of National Institutes of Mental Health of the US. Okay. He
Hmm.
resigned to start a Soteria House.
Hmm.
There are now about a dozen Soteria houses in Israel.
In
And
Israel.
yes, they have some that are only for Palestinians, some others for only Israelis, some only for women, some only for men,
Okay.
some kosher, not, so they have a variety of them.
Hmm.
That's a whole nother interesting story. But when he started, he interviewed people who had lived experience,
Hmm.
but who did not necessarily have any training, but
Hmm.
they were empathic people.
Hmm.
And so he did a study, and it was wildly successful,
Hmm.
so successful that it was shut down
Ah.
by the government. This is the problem. You're,
Yeah.
so the study was they randomly chose people to either go into the psychiatric hospital or to go to the Soteria House. And in the Soteria House, they lived together, like about 12 people, and three or four people with these empathetic people. And they would allow them to throw chairs, they would allow them to break dishes, they would allow them to act out, and within limits,
Yes, of course.
in a safe manner.
Yeah.
So they bought all sorts of old dishes from Goodwill, that they could throw against the wall to express themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
And they found out that most of these people who would go through their program for 18 months would come out fine because they would sit down and talk with them and listen to them, you
Yeah.
know, and help them work through their issues. It's a very similar. You broke for a moment.
Ah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a very similar idea to the Soteria House.
I
I
see.
mean, to open dialogue.
I see. Yeah.
People need to be listened to.
Yeah. I think perhaps this is the most fundamental, maybe, that we give voice to these people. I think so. Yeah, Vicky, I understand we both and Dave and so many others, we are all in the path of making this world a better place. And I think we're together in this enterprise to change things and to
Yes.
improve things for the mental ill people, and to the whole of society. I would say we have beautiful contributions to give. And this interview of mine here, I think, is also on this journey to make this place a better world. And I'd like to hear from you some final words, perhaps
Yes,
about a better world.
let me just finish Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. So
Okay.
we left him off in the in the depths of despair, right? When he can find his shadow self, then he can find a mentor like Frodo or um, or Gandalf
Mm-hmm.
or Yoda,
Yeah.
etc. That can help him then work through his stuff, and then he can come back to consensual reality, can come back to this, to our society on a higher plane, and
Yeah.
at that point he can start fulfilling his role in transforming society.
Yeah. And that comes along with joy, with pleasure, with appreciation of life, doesn't it, Vicky?
Yes.
We should not be unhappy, should we? We should not be
No.
miserable, should we?
No.
We should be joyful people. We should enjoy this planet and enjoy each other's presence.
Yes, and so my vision is to have a gift of the prophets, a
Hmm.
school of the prophets. I mean, and the guys in San Diego have a similar vision, because
Hmm.
those who are very sensitive, emotionally sensitive, are often very prophetic. They have a thin wall to the spiritual world, and so we need their voices. We need their
Yes.
insights.
Yes, and it's interesting also to mention that your husband, Fred Sigworth, he's a renowned scientist, isn't he?
Mhm.
He's a person who understands the scientific method in depth, isn't he?
Yes.
So usually a person would say that a scientist would be aligned with the mainstream idea of the medicines only, I would say. But that's not the case.
Well, he used to think
Yeah,
that the medicines that our son was being given had been vigorously and rigorously scientifically investigated. He
yeah.
discovered through reading a book called Mad in America, and then Anatomy of an Epidemic, and then
Hmm.
Psychiatry from Robert Whitaker, that these medications have not been well investigated.
Yeah.
They are approved after 4 weeks of having good results, but after 8 weeks, people are committing suicide.
Mm.
And they hide that information.
Mm.
So,
Oh,
whereas
that's
our son,
evil. That's evil,
yes,
Vicky. That's evil to hide this.
it's greed.
It's greed and evil.
Yes, yes. So it took us took up several years of, well, a couple of years of talking together, because it was very hard for him to understand that these researchers did not have the same integrity that he had.
Yeah.
But once he realized that, he was like, "Oh my gosh," you know. And now we are on the brink of, trying to find a different medication for our son. I mean, our son is still on medication because, he's not been at the point where he can really, has not been able to get down to the deep night, dark night of the soul yet. That's a very, very scary thing. Okay. But we're hoping that in time he can at least reduce his medications. Now, one thing I must say about open dialogue, they discovered that 20% of the people that they worked with
Hmm.
seemed to indicate that they needed medication for some reason.
But 20% to just 20%, and the other
Yes,
80%.
right. So the 80% are mostly without meds, except maybe when they're in a very stressful situation. So the key
Hmm.
is to learn how to deal with your stress and have enough support to deal with your
Yeah.
stress. But 20% seem to need medication and they don't know why.
Yeah.
And so there's still a lot to be learned medications do not work the way they thought they did. They thought there was a dopamine theory of
Yeah,
schizophrenia where there was too much dopamine.
yeah.
That's bunk. That's
Uh,
an urban legend, according to the American Psychiatric Association. The serotonin theory of depression is also bunk. It's an
oh,
urban legend, again, according to the American Psychiatric Association. But psychiatrists will tell you that this is the prevailing theory because they don't have another one.
yeah. It's so interesting and so beautiful because we have this person who has studied science thoroughly, comprehensively, and this that is the same person who thinks his son has some spiritual gifts. Is the same person who actually believes in Jesus, for example, also. So there is no contradiction, is there, Vicky, between being a scientist and being a spiritual person, between being a science and believing in God and religion? Is there a contradiction? There is no contradiction, right?
No, as my husband says, both need to walk by faith. Notice they always say the theory of serotonin, the
Yeah,
theory of, because, and theories can be debunked.
yeah,
And those have been.
yeah.
So basically, when he writes a grant,
Hmm.
he has to write it based on incomplete evidence.
Yes, everything is
If
incomplete
it,
evidence.
it, it, it
Yeah,
looks like this, and this may be true,
yeah,
and I'm going to do thus and such and such and such to
yeah,
make it more likely to think that this is true. But we also have to go by faith and trusting God and believing in Jesus based on incomplete evidence.
yeah.
So it is not, if even if somebody is healed by Jesus, that doesn't mean that they will believe in him.
Hmm.
10 lepers were healed by him, only one came back and thanked him.
I see.
Okay? Many people are healed today by the
Hmm.
followers of Jesus, and they don't become followers of Jesus. God still has to do a work in our hearts,
Hmm.
and that's whether you're a scientist or whether you're not a scientist. We have to become humble in terms of our own understanding.
Yeah.
Because the Bible says, do not lean on your own understanding.
Hmm.
That means you don't. It's not that you're stupid. It's not that you go blind faith, but you understand you're making decisions based on incomplete evidence.
Hmm.
So he says that to be a good scientist is a very good precursor for being a good Christian. And to be a good Christian, a very good precursor is to be a good scientist. So scientists make the best Christians often because they
Yeah,
realize that they have to do their science with incomplete evidence, and they also have to walk by faith with incomplete evidence.
yeah, and quite often a person of science is a person who is humble, a person who is
Yes.
careful. A good scientist, he doesn't haste himself into conclusions. He's a more
Mhm.
pondered person, which I think is in accord to the Bible and to the teachings of Jesus. We
Mhm.
were talking the other day about this subject. The hasty decision is usually not the best one, isn't it? We need to
Right.
pause, we need to pause, we need to reflect, and then we take the decision, and then we are in more attuned to the decision Jesus was making in our position. Mm.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, Vicky, so many beautiful things we're talking here. This channel is open for you whenever you want to say something. My channel, I don't have so many subscribers, but whenever you want to say something, you're invited to come here. Immense pleasure talking to you, Vicky.
It's been a wonderful pleasure talking with you, Joao, and maybe
Yeah,
we can continue this conversation some more later.
yes, of course. And we're making this world a better place. We're together in this enterprise.
By
And
the grace of God,
yes,
by the grace
amen.
of God. But first, we need healing inside,
Yeah,
because people with mental illness need healing, but people, their family members also need healing. Our
yes, of
politicians
course.
also need healing.
Of course. Of
And so
course.
we all need an increase in humility. And
Yes.
but we need the prophetic voice of those who have a thin skin to the spiritual world. But they are like bucking broncos. They
Hmm.
are like race horses that need a good jockey.
Beautiful words also. And I feel very praised because, as you know, I also have this diagnosis and I am very sensible to the words we have been using to describe these people. I feel in that place. Thank you so much, Vicky.
You're very
Definitely.
welcome. Thank you
Thank,
so much.
bye bye
Okay,
for now. We
bye.
can
God
talk.
bless.
Bye bye.
Okay.